1996 Rm250 here. This is one of my bikes, and I actually did a lot of work to it. I just took it out for a ride and started it up. It's a beautiful day out. It's like 56. I'm gonna be going over everything that I did to it. I got a whole list, and then if you guys want to skip ahead to when it runs, you could do that. I'll put the time in so you can go ahead and skip to that. I just adjusted the power valves a little bit, adjusted this one up here, and then I noticed a big difference when I was riding it. Coming from the top end, it was a lot more responsive. The second you get into that power band, it's just like bam. So the reason that I think that it's rich is it has to do with the fuel mixture, and that's really easy. That's just literally adding less oil into the fuel. Another thing that it could be is just because it's so warm out today, it's smoking a lot more than it does usually when it's cold out. But anyway, I'm not too concerned about anything like that. And the last thing that it needs is a clutch, which is very simple. The reason I didn't do that was just because I'm already too far into this thing to put any more money into it. But it shifts good. I shifted it and there's no issues with that, but the clutch is all the way out adjusted and it has a tough time grabbing. That means you need new clutch plates. But yeah, anyway, I got everything printed up of what I did to this thing. So I had this engine split, and while I had that split, I did hot rods bottom end bearings, and that was because the other ones were rusty. They were just so worn out, like you could hear it in the bearing. And the reason for it being rusty is because there's actually a coolant leak, and that was going into the bottom end. So on this model year, it's actually really crazy, but there's no water pump right here on the outside. It's actually inside the casing of the bottom end, so it's literally sitting right below the exhaust. I'll show you on the other side. See where that hose is feeding? That goes right into the water pump. I usually do the seals for them too. So I did seals for both sides, and then obviously made sure that those were in the correct position. I have a video up about me posting which way those are supposed to go. A lot of people misplaced those. All right, moving on to the next thing I did, I tuned the carburetor and I cleaned it. I had to put new gaskets in it. Some places I use gasket maker just because I had to tear it down a second time because of the water pump issue, which sucks, but I didn't notice that till after. And while we're talking about the water pump seal, that's actually the OEM one. It's not an aftermarket one. It's the OEM one, and you could tell it's very different from aftermarket seals. It's shaped differently. It's got 2 springs on each side, so I just wanted to make sure to get the right one to help it out better. All right, next thing I did is the Boyson reeds. I didn't get a whole new reed boot, but what I did get is reeds that you just kind of attach to it, so you screw them in. It's not a whole new plate or anything like that. It's just pretty much the paper sleeves or whatever you want to call them. All right, next thing I did was a spark plug. Obviously I do that on most of the builds that I do here. Vertex piston and rings, yep. So I did a top end on this and everything was good with that. So I did a front fork rebuild. So in that it included new fork oil, new fork seals, and dust seals. They were leaking pretty bad before, but they're good. No leaks right now. It's got a little bit of dirt on them and mud because it's wet out today, but no oil or anything like that. Also, while I'm over here, I want to show you this. The front end, it's pretty cool. And then you got that disc cover. So they're pretty hard to find on vintage dirt bikes actually, because they either get lost, broken off, or people just don't have them. So it's a really good look, and I love that number plate look as well, how it just kind of comes down and looks really retro. All right, so another thing I did was the rear shock linkage, and I did that because it was the bushings were worn out in it, so I did that, and I also replaced the rear shock on it, and that's pretty good. Another thing that I did do, which you can't really tell too much, is I repacked that muffler. It's still very loud, and my guess is because there's some little cracks in here, and yeah, anyway, I polished that as well. I have a post up about how good that came out. And yeah, it's a full pro circuit system, so coming from the header here, or pipe if you want to call it that, to the muffler, it's all pro circuit. And coming over to the clutch cable, you can see it's adjusted pretty much all the way out, as well as that. And I have to put a new cable in there. And how this cable is, it actually comes down to the stator side, and there's a rod that goes all the way across the engine into the clutch. This is pretty interesting. While we're down here, you can actually see I put a new fuel line on it as well. And then I put that heat shield on the coolant hose just because it's so close to that exhaust pipe. I didn't want anything burning up or anything. It looks like the guy had a JFG racing seat. Didn't put that on, but it looks absolutely nice with the gas tank and everything like that. He also put some stickers on it. Looks good with that. And yeah, I mean, I can't complain. It's a 96 and it looks great. Yeah, coming back over to the chain here, I did this chain, put a new one on there. It's adjusted and everything. It's really good. Obviously, because it's up in the air, it's going to be more loose. Once it's down the ground, you get more tension on the chain. And hopefully you guys could tell, I'm sure you did, but the frame was refurbished. So I had everything out, the engine, the suspension. I had literally just the frame. I completely sanded it and refurbished it closest to the Suzuki factory paint, and it looks absolutely gorgeous with that. Looking at the bottom of this list, you can see it says retap swing arm nut and bolt. So this bolt and nut were actually stripped and I couldn't get it back on. Usually that's from people tapping the threads of the bolt. So you can see this is the swing arm bolt here, and the other side is where the threads are. People tap on that side and that actually ruins the threads. So I completely had to retap that, get a new nut. And actually, I can't remember if I got a new nut or I retapped it. Either way, it's perfect now, and it's got Loctite on it. Coming down to the final things that I did for this is foot peg springs, and they're really good foot peg springs. They have a lot of tension on them. And the final thing is all new fluids, of course. And yeah, that pretty much finishes the list. I'm sure I could have left out a couple things, but I mean, you could tell that that's a long list, and I definitely put a lot of time into it and a lot of money. So I probably put around $2,700 into this build, and I'm literally asking $3,000 for it. So literally $300 more. So that's pretty much going to be a loss for me. But either way, I enjoyed working on this thing. I loved owning it. Hopefully someone could find it and take good care of it and kind of just appreciate it. But yeah, like I said before, it's not absolutely perfect. Like I said, it needs that clutch adjustment and the clutch, which is really simple, and then it runs a little rich. So I opened it up on this field right here, and it was great. I mean, personally, I would rather have a bike run rich than completely lean, because then I know it's not going to blow up within a couple hours of me riding it. So yeah, that pretty much finishes the whole list. So now you're gonna see a couple clips of it running, located in Connecticut. Yeah, if you have any purchasing questions, drop them down in the comments, or you could head to my Instagram page. That's where I have a lot of the stuff listed, like the videos, or sometimes even posts like this. When I bought this bike, it was completely beaten up. Like, you could tell it was just beaten on, not really taken care of. The guy that I bought it said that it was kind of sitting in storage, but I mean, that's what they all say when there's problems. So the VIN number's back there, and like I said before, it said 97 on the bottom, but the older years, I'm pretty sure it gives you a letter for the year. So it's a 96 or 97. Pretty sure it's a 96. Either way, it's got a huge amount of torque. It'll pick you up, throw you around, toss you around, kick the wheel out. It'll definitely take you for a hell of a ride. The exhaust is a bit loud, but I mean, when you have a Pro Circuit exhaust on there, you can't really expect it to be quiet. It's meant for racing and performing. So when you have a big bore engine, it's gonna just, I mean, sound like a gun. Anyways, I'll probably store it up. Then I'll probably add a leaner mixture, maybe get it running a little bit leaner, just so it doesn't smoke as much as it does, which isn't a huge problem, but usually I like to have them dialed in absolutely perfect. And I understand that not everything is going to be absolutely perfect. I'm kind of a perfectionist when it comes to that, so either way, looks beautiful. Put so much time into it. If I calculated all the hours, it would be an absurd amount. All right, well, I'm gonna go ahead and add those clips of it running. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and yeah. All right, so I was just looking actually back at the list, and I forgot one last thing that I did. It was the OEM shift stopper. So what that is it's a stopper inside this gearbox here. It's literally probably right back there, and I'll put a picture up of it actually, because I have the picture. So you have a shift drum that helps it shift. That was replaced, and the dog ears inside of it is what some people call it. That was also replaced, just because they wear easily and quickly. Or not easily, but when you have a bike this old, you want to replace them. So like I said, the drum and the dog ears are new, and then I got the OEM shift stopper, because the other one I think was either wrong or something was bent, something like that. Here's some of the leftover parts for that RM. These are all just old gaskets. We got the old spark plug in here, and all this I'm gonna give to the seller. This was the old seal. Oh yeah, so this is actually another OEM. I must have had an extra, but this is what they look like here. I think I bought two of them just in case. But you can see these OEM ones are actually really well built, and you can tell they got two springs, and compared to the aftermarket ones, they just look like this, and then flat on the other side. So that's always good to have. So you got like some spacers, I think some jets. Yeah, it looks like a jet here. A couple bolts.